Um, let's see. I think we've gotten through all the questions, although there's one hand raised. Well, it just went down. I guess people are nervous. They raise their hand and they go away. Gary, do you want to add anything else while we see if anybody else has any questions? Otherwise, I think we'll be wrapping up.
Well, the only thing I would add, you mentioned it, Gene. If you're just thinking about getting started, or get some tax advice, go to a CPA or somebody who can help you get structured to begin with. I've got some pretty good advice about setting aside a pretty hefty amount for taxes. Only spend half of what you make is what somebody told me, because the taxes will surprise you if you aren't prepared for it. And I guess, in terms of setting rates, do some research, and that can be either, online and other resources, but other people who are in the business, discuss with contemporaries. And my perception and my thought on it was, I'm willing to take less to get the experience. I want to get my foot in the door. I want to get some experience, and then once I get going, maybe I can then charge a little more. But again, I was pretty lucky in how I stepped into it, and I was operating at a different level than just starting out on my own. I was dealing with people. I was a known quantity, and I knew them, and so that helped a little bit. But get some advice, and get particularly on taxes.
Great real life experience comment, Gary. We do have a question that just popped up from Vivian, and her question is there a standard that people should be shooting for in terms of getting to their W-2 income level in a certain amount of time, and how that translates into the desired bill rate? So there's a few rules of thumb, Vivian. You got to be careful with these rules of thumb, and everything Steve went through, and certainly we're going to distribute these slides to everybody so you could have them. I think it's important to also go through that analysis of what Steve presented. But some rules of thumb, there's a couple of rules. There's the rule of a third. So you take a third of your bill rate, it should cover your W-2. A third of your bill rate should cover your taxes and expenses, and a third should cover your risk for profit and utilization. So if you're a $100,000 W-2 person, roughly 2,000 hours, that's a $50 an hour average hourly rate. You multiply it by 3, you probably should be charging $150 if you're a $100,000 person. Another rule of thumb is a little different, which is whatever your annual salary is, drop off the 3 zeros, and that should be your hourly rate, which would mean it would be $100. So again, these are just really rough rules of thumb, but for sure you could see with both those examples that whatever your W-2 hourly rate is not what your bill rate should be. So don't make that mistake. You need to mark it up. You need to cover your costs. You need to allow yourself for the fluctuation of variability in your utilization. So let's see. We got some more questions here, so I'm going to take them, and then Steve, I'll let you have some closing remarks. So we have Ron, who just asked, are there any websites which can indicate bill rates by region, by skill set? Ron, we really looked for that, and there really isn't. The best we could recommend is if you go to actually the GSA site, the Government Services General Services Administration, they actually publish all of the bill rates for vendors that do business with the government. You could go in there and sort by any skill, so you'll see what companies charge the federal government for different skill sets. That's about the only public site that we're aware of that is of any quality. So I hope that helps. And Ron, you have your hand raised. I don't know if you want us to, you just took it down, okay. And Vivian, thanks for Vivian said great tips, and we appreciate that. Steve, with that, I'm going to just give Gary and you some closing remarks. So Gary, you want to just close this out, and then I'll give it to Steve, and we'll end the show here.
Thanks for the opportunity to chat with you. This has been very helpful for me. Like I say, I sort of stumbled through this, and now I wish I'd have had this webinar about a year ago. But it's been very helpful, and good luck to everybody. It's sometimes a step of faith to jump out there, and congratulations if you already got work and you're trying to figure out whether to do mediums or smalls, because if you've got options, that's great. Best of luck. Thanks.
And thank you, Gary, for your contributions in this webinar, as well as serving our country for many years. So we really appreciate that. Steve, you want to just wrap this up, and we'll end the webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to provide my direct contact information to the attendees today. Feel free to reach directly to me to get more information about how to calculate your rate. As I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar today, there's a lot of different methodologies that you can use, and the cost-based is just one of them, and market and value-based methods are very important and critical into making sure that you get everything that's on the table. We'll be covering some of those topics in future webinars, but if you have specific questions, feel free to email me. On our website, we have, if you go to mbOpartners.com, on the left-hand side there's a link called Bill Rate Calculator, and if you click on that, we've designed this really cool tool that will help you go through all of your overhead costs and all of your variable costs to come up with what your bill rate, your cost-based bill rate should be. In addition, feel free to follow us on Twitter, and if you'd like to sign up for future webinars, or if you'd like a copy of the slides, feel free to email webinar@mbOpartners.com. And thank you, Gene and Gary, for attending today. I think this was a really helpful way to provide some information to aspiring consultants and also independent consultants out there that have already been established, get more out of their rate.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.